I am Chantal Roberts. My co-host, Amy Johnson, is unable to be here with us today. So we're going to go ahead and plow on and discuss some things that may be of interest to agents. Welcome to the Insurance Suits Podcast, a bi-monthly podcast brought to you by AIMCO, discussing the issues and the people who are involved in insurance. The views expressed by the moderators and guests represent their own views and opinions, and not necessarily the views and opinions of AIMCO, Insurance Suits, or its advertisers. We'll be talking about some professional liability insurance, which we don't necessarily think of as insurance representatives for ourselves. We sit there and we deal with insurance all day long, either as an agent broker where we sell insurance, or as a claims adjuster where we adjust these kinds of claims. But one of the themes that have been coming up with Fred and Leslie is the fact that these agents aren't protecting themselves. And I'm just going to use agent, even though it could be a broker. I think producer is technically the overarching term. I'm just going to use agents because we kind of understand what an agent is. And one of the things that an agent and an agency should really think about is errors and omissions insurance. And I would even think that if you are out doing business by yourself, like as a consultant, which is what I am, either as an expert witness for claims handling standards, practices, and procedures, or as a consultant helping claims departments, even I have errors and omissions coverage. And what errors and omissions coverage does is it protects against a loss incurred by one of my clients or the agent, the insured, because of some kind of negligent act, or of course an error or an omission by myself or the agent. I would see errors and omissions come up quite a bit as working in the claims department, when the insured would come to me and say, well, I told the agent I wanted XYZ. And I would say, well, I don't know anything about that. That would be in part of the application. And in looking at the application, I saw that, he or she did indeed ask for that particular type of coverage. And either the agent didn't get it for the insured, or the carrier didn't offer it, and the agent did not tell the insured. So the insured is operating under the belief that he or she has this coverage. And that could be a negligent act on the part of the producer. In fact, there's a lot of people who do need E&O insurance. Of course, insurance agents, travel agents, real estate agents. Are you hearing the word agent come up quite a bit? Attorneys, of course, have it. Consultants do, engineers and architects. But, I think that the thing that is important in this particular issue is making sure that you are covered, because while we are human and mistakes happen, it is nice to have that coverage, and you always want to make sure that it's covering you for what has happened in that current policy period. But if you are thinking about buying into a agency or a consulting business, or even if you're thinking about retiring, then you're starting to think about like all of these mergers and acquisition aspects. And that's something that I'm not particularly well versed about. However, you do want to still make sure, if you're, for example, buying into an agency, that you've got long tail coverage, which hopefully we as insurance professionals know. And that means that the accident could have happened, or the occurrence could have happened 2 or 3 years ago, and we would still have coverage for that. I guess one of the things that we would need to think about too, and this might be a great interview for us to have, and we should maybe set this up, is to start thinking about all the little bits and bobs that you would have for a merger and acquisition aspect, like making sure that there is going to be insurance to cover any possible past occurrences. I'm not saying that there were any, or that there are any, or anything like that, but even if you retire, let's say that you retire, you're off enjoying your vacation, your retirement in the Cayman Islands now. You don't want to sit there and worry about an insured coming back to you that you didn't give the proper endorsement or something to that effect, especially if it is some kind of long tail claim like construction defect or whatever. I mean, those things usually aren't discovered for a couple of years. This episode of Insurance Suits is sponsored by the American Association of Insurance Management Consultants, or AMCO, a nonprofit trade association comprised of insurance and risk professionals ranging from actuarial, underwriting, acquisition and transactions, and adjuster, agent, and broker standards of care. Find out more at www.aaimco.com. So another thing that you would probably want to be thinking about if you have an agency and you're not a solo practitioner, maybe you have a partnership, or maybe even a board because you're a corporation, like an S Corp or something like that, is that you would want to be thinking about maybe directors and officers liability policy as a producer again. And of course, that's going to provide you with your financial protection for the acts that the board happens to do if they're sued for mismanagement of a company's affairs. And, I've actually been seeing a lot of this, not necessarily in the producer or the agency space, but I see it a lot with the cannabis space, where these people are buying into these businesses, these dispensary businesses, and they're not making the money that they think they should. And we actually have a couple of experts or consultants also. Brenda Wells, she is a teacher, and we may interview her about some of that. But with the mergers and acquisitions in that particular instance, I see quite a bit of lawsuits where the attorneys are needing some help with the merger and acquisition or the mismanagement of the company affairs. CMR Consulting proudly sponsors the video recording of Insurance Suits. You now have a choice of watching or listening to the podcast. Go to YouTube and search for Chantal Roberts or CMR Consulting. So of course the D&O, the directors and officers policies, would be paying for a wrongful act that the board of directors do as or in their capacity. And again, you would need to be thinking about that in regards to the mergers and acquisitions. And again, one of the things that you're going to want to think about if you're thinking about retiring, or the insurance around the retirement and the selling off of your agency or your business, even the consulting business or whatever, what have you, is of course making sure that you have the cooperation of the outgoing person, and knowing who's going to be responsible, or whose insurance is going to be responsible. So rather than bore you with me just rambling on and you being just bored to tears like my risk management students are, I'm going to go ahead and say this wraps up another Insurance Suits podcast. We'll just make it really short. I'm Chantal Roberts, my co-host. Unfortunately, Amy, she is not here today. But we're going to be back in 2 weeks. I think we're going to bring in Dirk Beamer, who is a consultant and an expert witness in AIMCO, and he can talk to us a little bit more and more intelligently too about these mergers and acquisitions and maybe some E&O, D&O, and what kind of policies if you're looking to retire, if you're looking to buy in, these sorts of things. So please like, follow, subscribe to our podcast on your favorite channel and give us a 5-star review. If you need insurance consultants or expert witnesses, go to aimco.com. That's AAIMCO.com. Or if you are a consultant or expert witness, go to our page to learn more about us.